We're very happy to welcome Kyle Bylin. Kyle, thank you so much for coming and doing this today.
Nice talking to you, Rich.
I really appreciate it. Kyle, I wanted to start with you by asking, with the massive sea change that we've seen happen in the last decade, how would you describe the landscape of music culture as it exists today?
The landscape of music culture as it exists today is a very different one. In the previous eras, music culture sort of existed as hubs around these central locations such as record stores, radio stations, and venues. And with the commercialization of the landscape through big box retail outlets, a lot of the smaller, more indie stores sort of got them gobbled up into big box retail outlets and sort of consolidated the landscape. As well as with the Telecommunications Act of 1995, you saw the increasing commercialization of radio stations as well, where many of the more independent, organic radio stations got increasingly more swallowed up into the larger whole. As we moved forward with the emergence of the internet, we saw the fracturing of that media landscape and the audience and the sort of networks that existed around those ecosystems then spread out into the internet into very specialized niches. Now we're seeing another sort of, after we saw that emergence of online community and fandom created on the internet, we're now seeing the mobilization of fandom through the smartphone revolution, increasingly the age of the connected car. And rather than social sort of institutions like radio and venues and stores being the hubs of culture, people are now the portals of culture, and they themselves, through their smartphones, are able to mobilize fandom into the real world.
In the sense of direct fan artist connection, fan direct artist access.
Direct to fan artist connection, as well as connection to each other through these increasingly mobile applications that allow them to, for instance, two very interesting concepts in the landscape right now are Wawa.fm and Soundtracker.
Which are?
They're geosocial music applications that allow you to listen to music and simultaneously broadcast that music to the larger community. And other people participating in those applications can then tap into your music stream in real time and listen with you and have a chat and communicate about the music that you're actually hearing. And this sort of represents a very different evolution of culture. We're going from tuning into radio stations to tapping into people and locations. I think increasingly in the next 5 to 10 years, what we're going to have through geo-based music data is that you're going to be able to see a map of the United States and the major music hubs like Austin, Seattle, Minneapolis, New York. You're going to be able to tap into those places as radio stations on a map and experience the culture and the feel of a scene as actual locations rather than of genre and artist-based stations that we traditionally know today.
So, but what I find so interesting about what you're saying is not only will you be able to tap into them, but you'll be able to interact with the audience. And that's the huge distinction is how, and I remember you wrote about this in an essay where you talked about one of the major aspects of shift in this relationship was not only how fans could communicate with artists, but how fans could now somehow communicate with each other. And that was a profound shift from the kind of relationship we had before where it was one to many, like one person listening to the radio or many listening to the one radio station, the top-down world, if you will.
And, one company that's making interesting inroads in that is called Jelly Radio. Jelly Radio is a social radio application that allows fans to take control of traditional broadcast radio stations in real time and vote songs up the queue and listen to them in real time with everyone else with this sort of game dynamic as well as chat functionality. And what's interesting in this environment is you would think that, the most hit songs would only get played more frequently, but what happens when you sort of release music to the wisdom of the crowds is that people do all sorts of interesting things. They'll say, do an animal block. Any song or artist that has an animal theme is now voted up the tally, and for an hour it's all animal theme songs. And sort of very interesting organized chaos emerges out of these game environments.
Interesting. You know, I want to ask you about something that is sort of a shift that we have seen along with the technological revolutions. One of the things, and you've written about this as well, one of the things that has occurred that has been an outcome of all of this is that we have a generation that has been raised to either believe or has come to believe that music should be free. And I'm just curious if you feel that we will ever be able to capture in the future a sense of greater monetary value toward music rather than it being just something that is totally free. What's your opinion on that?
Well, I mean, of course, the traditional thought process is how do we leverage new scarcities around music that
Right.
the internet has allowed artists to now create value in, rather than music being your sole product that you then push into the market and market around and do tour support for. What other experiences around that music can you create that have a certain more intangible value than the tangible value of a CD?
Okay, talk about what those are.
Well, I mean, services like Kickstarter and Pledge Music have leveraged very interesting scenarios where in sort of a pre-order like fashion, you invest in the outcome of a CD. You really like the artist, they need money to produce that CD, and you put down a certain dollar amount towards it. And how those tiers are leveraged, what they hope to incorporate is to get a higher degree of investment by creating new scarcities around that music that didn't exist before. For instance, for $15, you get the CD and the booklet. For $25, the CD and a booklet and a signed lithograph of the lyrics. And maybe at $35 to $45, there's the exclusive Skype performance of your favorite artist only for you and maybe 30 other people. So that's a new scarcity that can still be monetized and that still has a new form of value for many bands.
Okay. Do you think that, so is that the future for you? That's where you feel the future's going? To monetizing the experience?
Well, I mean, experiences have always been viewed as more valuable, and psychology shows it, right? When you buy a physical object, such as a new laptop, over time, humans habituate to that object and derive less and less satisfaction out of it. Because in very basic terms, for the first week, it is the best computer ever. But every week after that, it's progressively a worse computer. And you just sort of get used to the totality of this computer is mine and exists. But when you think of something in terms of experience, whether you're talking about a concert or a special fan performance, that is an experience that a fan can relive and recall for a much longer timetable and derive more emotional connection and value from than a physical object alone. That's why they say, if you have the choice of buying a $1,000 TV versus a $1,000 vacation, you should buy the vacation, because in the long run, that sort of investment will recoup a higher value of satisfaction and happiness than a TV ever can.